Hi guys, and welcome back to another video for Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst. Today's video is going to be a continuation of the mini-series that I've been doing, looking at some of the rarest items in the game, and trying to give you an indication of what are some of the better ways to try and find them. As you'll know, PSO is kind of infamous for having some ridiculously hard to find items, some of which might literally take you months or even years to find. So these videos are intended as a reference to try and make it a little easier by trying to maximize the hunt and trying to make it as efficient as possible. So the item we're looking at today, as you can probably tell, is the Psycho Wand. So Psycho Wand is a 12-star rod, and it just says a mysterious cane known only as the ultimate cane. Its abilities are unknown. It is very funny to me that Psycho Wand is a rod that gets referred to as a cane in the description and is called a wand. But you know, inconsistency is a common thing in PSO. So, first of all, why would you want to hunt Psycho Wand? So, Psycho Wand, as well as being a Phantasy Star series staple weapon, you know, it is a weapon that's synonymous with the series going back to the classic games. So, a lot of people just want to hunt it because of that. But the main reason is because it is legitimately one of the best force weapons in the game for casting. So, what Psycho Wand does is, first of all, it provides a 30% boost to the damage of Rafoy, Razonde, and Rabata, which is huge. So, for example, on a 4-new whirl, that essentially gives you the 4-new tech boost. Obviously, on a 4-new, you're going to get an even bigger boost. What it also does is it has a weird special attack that casts a random Foy, Zonde, or Barter. You'll only be able to see some of them because you'll need targeting for some, but you can see there we're doing Foys and Barters. It does do Zonde as well. That's not the reason you use it though, really. The other big benefit of the Psycho Wand is, as you cast, you'll probably notice, if you keep an eye on my HP, you'll see it's actually hurting me when I'm casting. And this is a gimmick of Psycho Wand. So what Psycho Wand does is, when you cast a technique, it basically takes the TP cost of the technique. It takes the full TP cost off your HP, and it cuts the TP cost of the technique. So you get a really nice reduction to the amount of TP that your attacks cost, which lets you cast for longer. The only downside is that obviously every now and again you are going to have to heal because of the damage to yourself, because as you can see, it does damage you pretty quickly. You can see we're doing, what, around about 40 damage to ourselves every time we cast with Rabata. I should note as well, though, that doing Rester, you don't hurt yourself before you do Rester, so don't worry about that. So that is the main reason. It gives a nice TP reduction to your techniques, but also gives you a really nice boost to those Rafoy, Razonde, and Rabata as well. Now, Psycho Wand, to find it, it is very, very difficult to find. It is one of the few uber rare items in the game that is findable on every single section ID, along with Lavis Cannon and Heaven Punisher. But much like Lavis Cannon, there are certain IDs that you definitely want to focus on for finding this, because some of them are just completely undoable. There are some IDs that literally have 1 in 300,000 drops for this. Needless to say, you're probably not going to be using those. So what I'll do is I'll switch over to a different character and I'll show you a couple of different IDs that you can use for hunting Psycho Wand, and show you some quests that you might want to do to try and make it a little bit easier. So the first ID I want to cover is Purplenum. So much like Lavis Cannon and Heaven Punisher, the Psycho Wand does have a drop available from a rare monster. However, if you thought that the Lavis Cannon drop was rare, at 1 in 21 from a rare monster, this is a whole nother level. So the drop for a rare enemy for Psycho Wand is from episode 1 Mill Lily, which is the rare Lily in Curves. And it drops at a rate of roughly 1 in 205. Yes, 1 in 205 from a rare monster. So it's 1 in 500 for a rare monster to appear, and then 1 in 205 for the rare monster to drop Psycho Wand. Now, this is actually the way I found Psycho Wand. However, what I would recommend is I would probably only do this during either Rare Monster Week, so you got more chance of getting Mill Lilies to show up, or Rare Drop Week to try and get an increased rate on the Psycho Wand if you can get a Mill Lily to show up. Obviously, events are fantastic for this, because events quite often have boosts, so try and tie it in with that as well. So the quest that I normally use for this is one of the maximum attack quests. So if you go episode 1 and go to maximum attack, you've got this one here, which is maximum attack 4th stage. Now, a couple of these will work, but I typically use 1B. I want to say that maybe 1C might work, but I typically use 1B. Now, for class, honestly, I personally feel like the best class to do for this is probably a Force if you do it single player, because Force can clear the Lily spawns really quickly. Unfortunately, I don't have a Purplenum Force. Yeah, but this quest basically takes place in Cave 2. And what I'll do is I'll just show you a quick run. It really doesn't take very long to get to the Lily spawns either, which is good. So obviously, because it's a max attack quest, we do have quite big spawns. This quest also isn't bad on Purplenum because the Vulmas also drop MNA 60 Vice, and if you can get one of those with high hit, they can be really valuable. Yeah, obviously, it's not too difficult. It's only caves. On Purplenum, you can ignore the slimes for the most part. The red slime, I believe, only drops red Scorpio, so it's not really that great weapon. So this next room, this is your first big room for lilies. And with a Force, you would just stand in the middle and spam Resonde in single player, and you'd be able to clear it very quickly. And with this character, it does take a bit longer, unfortunately. But you can see we've got huge lily spawns. So again, you're looking for that 1 in 500 chance of a mill lily. I should stress this is not Rare Monster Week I'm doing this in, so the chance of us actually seeing one is quite low. We've got an LK-14 combat though. Because of course we did. Yeah, so I'm just killing the slimes because on Purplenum I don't really need a red Scorpio. So, as usual, just work your way through here. There is a chance of getting Purplenum card from the Nano Dragons as well. Whether you view that as a good thing is up to you. So yeah, once you clean this room out, I'm not going to pick that LK-14 up because it's terrible. This room here opens, and this is also great for lilies. Yeah, weapons on ranges, weapons like Heaven Strike are really helpful for this because of the range. But I would really recommend doing this with a Force. Then another massive lily spawn. And another one. If you position right, you can stay in the room, but yeah, if you want to be safe, there's no harm in running out. So you clear that room. Now you could end there if you wanted to, that is one option. Some people do end after that room. I will show you the other option as well though, if you do want to continue. Oh, we got Guilty Light as well, fantastic. Well, it's team points, I guess. Yeah, I'm recording this in rare drop week, so we'll probably get a lot of the bad drops. A 400 drop as well. all the rares in this. As long as I don't get a Purplenum card, I'm okay. So you go through this room. Into this room. There's a few spawns in here. Again, if you do want to end off that last lily room, that's totally fine. But I do want to show you this option as well, because there is another really good lily room. I have had a few people asking what the plugin that I use to show drops on the ground as well. That is called the Dropbox Tracker. There is a link to that on the, I think it's on the Ephinea forum page. It's basically on a GitHub file. But what it does is it basically highlights certain drops on the ground that you can configure. So things like materials, rare drops and so on will show up like this. It's a really, really useful add-on, and I would really recommend people getting it if you do play PSO quite a bit. So you can see there's one lily at the back there. That's not what we're waiting for though. For some reason I've got tree clippers with me. Yeah, so once you've cleaned this room, this is the room that you want to go to. So if you don't cancel after the last lily room that we had, this is the next one, and you get a lot of lilies in here. And we actually got a middle lily as well. So you're saying there's a chance. So you do need to be careful. Again, with a force, you could probably just run in and resondo the whole room, but you know, force privilege. I mean, if it wants to give me another Psycho Wand, I would not be against that. It's 1 in 162 at the minute. Boo. Yeah, don't be disheartened if you don't get a Psycho Wand. It's a hard drop. So you clear this spawn. And there's one more. So you can see this room is a lot of lilies. Again, this is far, far easier with a force. It's just, unfortunately, I do not have a Purplenum force. Send some people in there. That's not a bad place to end. However, if you kill these... You do get 2 more lilies there. I don't know if it's worth it just for 2 more, but they're there if you want them. And that is the end of the run. So that is where you would normally reset. So that is a fantastic way of getting lilies very quickly. There is one other quest you can use, which I probably recommend for lilies. I'm not going to show it though in this video, which is today's rate. Right at the start of the quest today's rate, if you run, I want to say it's eastwards, but I could be wrong. There's one of the rooms right near the start that has, I think it's, is it 3 spawns of 3 lilies? So you can get 9 lilies really quickly and then reset. To be honest though, I would probably just run this if you're doing Purplenum. This isn't where I got mine. I got mine during anniversary quests, during the anniversary event, but those quests aren't coming back again from what we understand. So this, in my opinion, is probably your best way of farming for Psycho Wands on Purplenum. Of course, it doesn't just drop on Purplenum, so I will show you some other options, particularly if you don't want to hunt rare enemies, which is totally understandable. Now, the next ID I'm going to show is Oran. So Oran gets Psycho Wand from Gibbles, which is the big monkey boss in episode 2. Well, mini boss. And the way to hunt it is kind of similar to how you hunt CLJ Sword with Skylight. So the drop rate is actually exactly the same as CLJ Sword, so it's 1 in 12,603. And the quest you use is exactly the same as well, so you tend to run Phantasmal World 4. The difference being is that with the Skylight CLJ Sword hunt, you tend to do a 2-floor reset for 5 GQs. With Oran, you do a 1-floor reset for Gibbles because you get Gibbles on the first floor. You get, I believe it's 3 of them. Now, this character is actually still super weak at the minute. I haven't finished a material plan or anything. So doing it with an ultimate is actually quite hard for it at the minute. So I'll show it on a lower difficulty, but it's the same, same concept. So you want to go into episode 2 into Extermination and go to Phantasmal World 4. And essentially what this hunt is just resetting the first floor over and over again. Now, I'm going to say this is not an interesting hunt. This is a very, very soul-destroying hunt. But it is one of the better ways of hunting Psycho Wand, if you can tolerate doing it. So you basically walk to tower. Class for this I'd recommend, I would say Hunter or Ranger. I mean, ideally you want something to deal with the Ilgil at the start. So either something that has Zalur, like a Zalur S rank weapon, or a class that can use Zalur is really handy, just to get past the Ilgil's defense. Again, this is on lower difficulty. But you basically kill the Ilgil at the start, run up this way. Again, if you stand on these yellow bits, you can sometimes get the Gibbles stuck. But yeah, you get 1 Gibbles there. Second one here. Then you get a Del Lily. And then finally, another Gibbles. And that's the end of the hunt. So you would just do this, but obviously in ultimate. You just run that floor, kill those 3 Gibbles, then you would reset back to the lobby and do it again. And just spam that over and over again. Again, the drop rate for it is 1 in 12,603, so it is a hard drop. But it is a fast way of getting those Gibbles kills. Now, at this point, I do want to cover another section ID. Now, this one I won't be able to show because I don't have a Bluefull character high enough. But another hunt that is probably one of the most profitable hunts for Psycho Wand is to do Bluefull Delbiters. So it's interesting because Viridia and Bluefull both get the Psycho Wand drop from Delbiters in episode 2 in either Seabed or Tower. But if you look at the drop rates, they are totally different. So I think Viridia's drop rate is something stupid like 1 in 130,000. But Bluefull gets the drop rate at 1 in 12,603. So it's a much, much better drop. I realise it's still a hard drop rate, but it's much better than 1 in 130,000. Now, if you are hunting that drop, I would really recommend running Phantasmal World 3, which is the Seabed quest. That has a lot of Delbiters in it. There's also some other nice drops in Bluefull Seabed as well, so it's not a bad area. But yeah, I would say that the best 2 IDs for Psycho Wand. Purplenum is good if you can get the rare monsters to show up. Obviously, there is a lot of RNG with that, whether Middle Lily decides to show up or not. You might get Middle Lily show up frequently, in which case having that 1 in 205 is a really decent shot at Psycho Wand. But you might go for several runs and not get any rare enemies at all. So it is kind of a mixed bag. It depends if you're willing to put up with the chances of rare enemies showing up or not. But Purplenum is definitely an option. I would probably say that Bluefull is the best overall for Psycho Wand, because that 1 in 12,000 chance is always going to be the same. The enemies are always going to spawn in that quest. If you run it during rare drop week, you can bring the drop rate down more. And occasionally, for example, actually at the time of recording this, Phantasmal World 3 is actually on the Ragdoll Boost Road as well, on Ephinea. So that then brings the drop rate down even more. So with Ragdoll Boost Road and with a rare drop week, you can sometimes get the drop rate down to as low as something like 1 in 6,000, which is doable. It's still tough, but that is doable. But yeah, if you are running the Bluefull dropper for Delbiters, I would definitely run it and do Phantasmal World 3. That is by far the most profitable option for that, in my opinion. But yeah, the other options, aside from Bluefull, are your Purplenum, Cave Lilies, and Oran Gibbles. They're kind of the main drops you'll go for Cycle Wand. I will just quickly reel off the other drops just so you can see what the other IDs get, because as I mentioned at the start, Cycle Wand does drop on every single ID. But this is the reason why you don't hunt it on the other IDs. So I'm basically just going to go through the drops for Cycle Wand. So you have Viridia Ultimate Delbiters at 1 in 131,072. Don't hunt that. You know, if you're hunting Delbiters, there is another much better drop that we've already talked about. Do not hunt it on Viridia. Greenhill is from Ultimate Ruins Grand Sorcerers at 1 in 299,593. There is a few other IDs that get that drop as well, which is Skylight has exactly the same drop, and Redria also has the same drop as well. They are terrible. Do not hunt those. 1 in 300,000 from a Sorcerer in Ruins is atrocious. Then you have the Bluefull Delbiter drop, which I've already covered. That is Ultimate Delbiters at 1 in 12,603. That is definitely one of your best options, as we talked about. Then you have Purplenum, which is the Cave Lilies, which again is another option. Hinkle gets it from a Ultimate Seabed Sinnoh Zealot at 1 in 299,593. So the Zealots are the red robots in Seabed, you know, the ones that don't spawn very often, and it's 1 in 300,000. Yeah, it should go without saying, don't hunt it on Pinkle. Then Oran, we've covered, that is from Gibbles in CCA or Tower at 1 in 12,603. That is doable, albeit with a lot of resetting. Then Yellowbows gets it from Ultimate Ruins Bullclaw at 1 in 233,017. It will also drop from a bulk as well, like once a Bullclaw opens up. But the drop rate, I believe the drop rate for bulks is normally worse. So yeah, Bullclaw, but again it's 1 in 233,000. You're not going to hunt that. And then the last one for Whitehill is Del Lilies, which are the lilies that spawn only in Tower at 1 in 299,593. Now, I do want to give a shout out to a viewer of my channel, Zale, who actually got that drop. We've actually seen that drop happen before, so it does exist, but don't hunt it on the ID. That was a complete fluke. So, in summary, the IDs that you really should be using to hunt Psycho Wand is either Bluefull, Purplenum, or Oran. And I would probably err towards Bluefull overall. Again, it does depend a lot on how you want to hunt. So if you just want to run through a quest to its completion and then run that quest again, then Bluefull is probably the best for that, because you can just spam Phantasmal World 3. If you want to hunt rare monsters in an easier area, because obviously, you know, Ultimate Seabed is pretty difficult. If you want to hunt in an easier area but have to rely on rare monsters, then Purplenum is your option. And if you want to do a hunt that's a lot of just resets, so typically you're going to do that solo because you're not going to have other people coming in with you for a reset hunt of one floor. Then if you're okay doing a reset hunt, then Oran is another option. But I would probably say I would err towards doing Bluefull overall. Again, I found mine on Purplenum, but in retrospect, I think Bluefull is probably the better option overall. So yeah, that is all the drops for Psycho Wand and how to find them ideally. So just in summary, again, for Bluefull, you probably want to be spamming Phantasmal World 3. For Purplenum, probably maximum attack for 1B or today's rate resets. TTF Towards the Future is doable as well, because it is very quick to get to caves and there is a few lily spawns, but it's probably not as efficient overall, I would think, as running max attack. And then for Oran, you're probably going to be spamming these Phantasmal World 4 resets. You could also do, I believe it's Phantasmal World 2, which is a mountain that has a lot of gibbles as well. That's not bad, but it's probably faster overall to do the reset spam on 4, even though it's not as fun. But those are your options. I should also point out that You can also get a Psycho wand from the anniversary badge platinums as well. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the badges going forward for the anniversary event, but if you, for some reason, happen to have an anniversary platinum badge, which are very, very rare in their own right, you can trade that in at the anniversary shop for a Psycho wand. It will have no attributes, but that doesn't matter on a Psycho wand. But yeah, if you, for some reason, if you got lucky and found the anniversary platinum badge, that is one of the items you can trade for. But for actual hunting, and realistically most people are not going to have a badge, you are looking at those few IDs, so probably Bluefull, Purplenum and Oran. Yeah, I hope that's been relatively useful. It is a bit more limited for Psycho 1 because there really isn't that many good quests for hunting some of these enemies. You know, I mean, for Delbiters, for example, there are not that many quests full of Delbiters. I mean, Phantasy World 4 does have quite a lot as well, but you're dealing with a lot of annoying tower enemies at the same time. And I feel like they're more densely packed in Phantasy World 3, so I'd probably stick to running that. But yeah, there are a couple of IDs that you can focus on. So we'll do a few more of these videos. So far I've done Sealed J Sword, Lavis Cannon, and now Psycho Wand. I do want to do one for Heaven Punisher, and then there's probably a couple of other items we'll cover as well. Yeah, if you have any questions about hunting any of these in the comments, whether it's for Psycho Wand or anything else, please leave it in the comments and I'll try and respond where I can. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider either liking or subscribing to the channel. It does really, really help. And if you want to see more PSO stuff, I do tend to stream on a Wednesday and a Sunday, and the Sunday streams are normally Phantasy Star streams, so we do play PSO now and again on those as well. So feel free to drop by there. Yeah, whatever you're doing, have a great week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.